Don't feel any different than being 79 so far. Who knows what another year will bring?
Tom Oar tamed the great outdoors. For over 30 years, he's been the real deal, a genuine mountain man living exactly the way pioneers did 2 centuries ago. He can turn a raw elk hide into butter-soft buckskin using nothing but animal brains and wooden frames. He even built his own cabin by hand in Montana's Yaak Valley and survived 17 years without electricity or running water. But is Tom Oar the genuine man he claims to be? For decades, people have trusted Tom until he said something in an interview that would change everything, and now fans are asking the same question: who really is Tom? The real mountain man. Before the cameras ever found him, Tom Oar had already lived several lifetimes. He spent 25 years on the rodeo circuit, bronc riding, trick riding, the kind of work that breaks bones and ends careers early. By 35, his body had taken enough punishment. Most men would have retired to something soft. Tom chose the opposite. In the late 70s, he and his wife Nancy drove into Montana's Yaak Valley, one of the most remote places in the continental United States. They didn't buy a house. They built one, log by log, with hand tools, in a wilderness where the nearest neighbor was miles away and winter temperatures dropped to 40 below. For 17 years, they had no electricity, no running water, no phone line. They heated with wood they chopped themselves. They ate what they hunted and trapped. Tom learned brain tanning, an ancient technique for turning animal hides into soft, durable leather using the animal's own brain matter. It's a skill that takes years to master, and Tom became one of the best in the country. This wasn't a performance. This wasn't a lifestyle brand. This was a man and his wife choosing, every single day, to live in a way that most Americans couldn't survive for a week. By 2012, Tom Oar had been living off-grid for over 35 years. He was 69 years old. He had no social media presence, no publicist, no interest in fame. He was exactly what he appeared to be: a craftsman, a survivor, a man who had opted out of modern life and never looked back. Then the History Channel came calling, and they came with an offer. Mountain Men launched in 2012, and producers wanted authentic subjects, not actors pretending to live off the land. Real people with real skills who had actually chosen this life. Tom Oar was perfect. Too perfect, maybe. He had the resume. Rodeo cowboy turned wilderness craftsman. He had the skills. Brain tanning, trapping, hunting, cabin building. He had the look, weathered face, calm demeanor, the kind of man who doesn't waste words. And he had the story. Over 30 years in the Yaak with Nancy, and still going strong. The show offered something Tom had never sought: an audience. Millions of viewers who would watch him do what he'd been doing alone for 35 years. He said yes. What Tom didn't fully understand was that he wasn't just agreeing to be filmed, he was agreeing to become a character, and characters need drama. If he had known what was coming, if he had known who he would become, maybe, just maybe, he would have said no. Mountain Men became a hit. By its 3rd season, it was drawing over 4 million viewers per episode, making it one of the History Channel's flagship programs. Tom Oar became the heart of the show. Viewers loved his quiet competence, his steady hands working leather, and his relationship with Nancy, still strong after decades. In a television landscape full of manufactured conflict and screaming personalities, Tom was the opposite: calm, skilled, real. The show documented his daily life, checking trap lines in deep snow, tanning hides in his workshop, preparing for Montana winters that could kill the unprepared. Every episode reinforced the same message: this man is the genuine article. Fan forums filled with praise. Comments called him the most authentic person on TV. Articles celebrated his lifestyle as proof that the old ways still worked. Tom Oar became a symbol of self-reliance, of craftsmanship, of a simpler life that most Americans had abandoned. But something else was happening behind the scenes. Something foul. Mountain Men, like every reality show, faced a fundamental problem. Real life isn't structured for television. Tom's actual days were repetitive. Check traps, tan hides, chop wood, eat, sleep, repeat. The skills were impressive, but the rhythm was slow. A genuine week in Tom's life might produce 10 minutes of footage that casual viewers would find compelling. So producers did what producers do. They shaped the narrative. Stock footage appeared in episodes. Bears and wolves inserted into scenes to heighten danger, even when those animals weren't present during filming. Timelines got compressed. Events were recreated for cameras that couldn't be present for the original moment. Situations were framed to maximize tension. The mountain wasn't dangerous enough, so they made it more dangerous. The stakes weren't high enough, so they raised them artificially. None of this was unique to mountain men. It's standard practice across reality television. But it created a specific problem for Tom Oar. His entire appeal was authenticity. Viewers watched because they believed they were seeing real life, unfiltered. Every manufactured moment, every inserted predator, every dramatized close call, all risked exposing the gap between what Tom actually lived and what the show presented. For years, that gap stayed hidden. The audience didn't know what they weren't seeing. Then Tom started talking. The admission. In 2013, Tom Oar gave an interview that most fans never saw. When asked about how the show portrayed his life, he was characteristically blunt. "They always have to make it seem more dangerous," he said. "I'm too boring otherwise." 8 words, that's all it took. Tom wasn't complaining. He was just being honest, the way he'd always been honest. But those words contained an admission that cut against everything the show had built. The danger was exaggerated. The drama was manufactured. The man audiences believed they were watching, the one facing constant peril in the unforgiving wilderness, was, by his own account, actually living a life too uneventful for television. The quote circulated slowly at first. Fan forums picked it up, then critics. Then journalists writing about the authenticity of reality television used Tom's words as evidence. Here was a man celebrated for being real, admitting that the version of him on screen wasn't quite real at all. Mountain men had always faced skepticism. Online communities dissected episodes, identifying moments that seemed staged or footage that didn't match. Other cast members faced accusations of outright fakery, scripted hunts, manufactured emergencies, setups designed purely for cameras. Tom was usually defended. "He's the real deal," fans would say. "Whatever the show does, Tom is genuine." But his own admission complicated that defense. If Tom knew the danger was exaggerated, if he participated in a show he acknowledged was making things seem more dangerous, then what did his authenticity even mean? The criticism wasn't that Tom was a fraud. No one doubted his skills, his history, his genuine wilderness life. The criticism was subtler and harder to answer. By lending his credibility to a show that manufactured drama, had Tom become complicit in the deception? He was still the same man who'd built his cabin by hand. He still tanned hides the way he'd done for over 30 years. Nothing about his actual life had changed. But now there were 2 Tom Oars, the one in the Yaak, living quietly with Nancy, doing the same work he'd always done, and the one on screen, edited into a character who faced dangers that were heightened, compressed, and shaped for maximum entertainment value. The double life wasn't a secret family or a hidden crime. It was something more modern. The split between a real person and their television persona. And it was about to get much worse for Tom. The cost of visibility. Fame brought problems Tom never anticipated. Starting around 2015, websites began publishing fake stories about him. Tom Oar dead at 74. False. Mountain men star hospitalized. Fighting for life. Exaggerated or invented. The entertainment industry had discovered that Tom's name generated traffic. His wholesome image made him a perfect target. Viewers who loved him would click on anything with his name attached, even if, especially if, it promised scandal or tragedy. Tom had to start publicly debunking his own death. In one instance, he posed holding a current calendar to prove he was still alive. A man who had spent decades avoiding attention was now forced to engage with the internet just to confirm his own existence. The hoaxes kept coming. Every few months, a new round of fake articles. Tom Oar has died. The irony was bitter. A man who valued truth above almost everything was now surrounded by lies, and there was nothing he could do to stop them. The same visibility that had introduced millions to his genuine skills had also made him a commodity, a name that could be attached to any fabrication because it would generate clicks. And then the hoaxes weren't hoaxes anymore. In 2022, something real happened. Tom developed fluid buildup in his lungs. At 79, any cardiac issue is serious. He required medical intervention and medication management. For the first time, the man who had survived everything the Yaak could throw at him was facing a threat he couldn't outwork or outskill. He recovered. The medication helped, but the scare forced a reckoning. Tom was 79 years old. He'd been on Mountain Men for a decade. The physical demands of the show, or at least the physical demands of filming the show, were becoming harder to meet. And the gap between his real life and his television life was widening. In 2025, the History Channel announced that Season 14 would be Tom Oar's final season as a regular cast member. He wasn't leaving the Yaak. He wasn't abandoning the lifestyle. He was just stepping back from the cameras that had made him famous and in some ways had trapped him. Tom Oar is 82 years old now. He still lives in the Yaak Valley with Nancy. He still tans hides the way he learned decades ago. He still heats with wood and lives by rhythms that haven't changed since the 70s. The show is behind him, but the media attention on him continues, but he's stopped responding to most of it. The attention will keep coming, they always do, but they matter less now. What matters is the life, the real one. The one that existed before the cameras and will continue after everyone's forgotten which episodes were dramatized and which moments were manufactured. Did Tom Oar lie about who he was? What do you think? He built his cabin with his own hands. He learned skills that most Americans don't know exist. He chose a hard life and lived it honestly for decades before anyone was watching. The lie wasn't his. It belonged to the machinery around him. The producers who needed drama, the editors who shaped footage, the industry that can't show a quiet life without making it louder. Tom's admission, "I'm too boring otherwise," wasn't a confession of fraud. It was the most honest thing anyone on reality television has ever said. He told the audience exactly what they should have known, that what they were watching wasn't quite real, even though he was. The double life was never hidden. It was broadcast every week to millions of viewers who didn't realize they were watching two different things at once: a genuine man and a television character who shared his name. In the Yaak Valley, the snow still falls the same way it did in 1978. The traps still need checking. The hides still need tanning. Tom Oar still wakes up in the cabin he built beside the woman he's loved for 5 decades and does the same work he's always done. That life was never boring. It just looked that way to people who needed the mountain to seem more dangerous than it actually was. This is Tom's story, and there are many more to come. To be a part of that, like this video and subscribe to this channel for more. We've got tons of videos like this coming, but comment to let us know which one you'll love to hear about next. Until next time.